Okay, what's going on, guys? 2021 Uncut. It's just a new podcast series we're doing to start the year, and the episode 1 is one I think that's dear to all of our hearts. And we decided to call it "Am I a Lost Cause?" You know, and I think all three of us here. Well, I know all three of us here have, you know, felt in our lives at different times like what it actually feels like to feel like a lost cause, to feel like a waste of space, to feel like, you know, no one is necessarily like relying on us for anything. And for me at times, like that no one would miss me if I wasn't even alive. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's a horrible feeling. And so we're trying to speak to that from experience. And then we really know, and we've seen in all three of our lives, there's actually a way out from that type of thinking. And we believe that, and we've experienced that. And I think that's the one telltale way to actually believe something fully, is to have experienced it. And so let's just kind of get into it. And so first things first, let's do a little icebreaker. I guess I should intro. You guys know Josh, Pastor Josh.
Yeah, that's me. That's
super
my
awkward.
name.
That's him. You know,
I didn't know where I was looking. I felt like I was going to look at people.
You just waved and whatever. You felt like you were going to look at people.
I don't know,
there's
dude.
no one over
I
there.
was like, it's cameras.
Okay, so that's Pastor Josh, and you know we love him anyways. And this is Henry, beauty. He wore the chain today.
Absolute beauty.
He's
yeah.
probably one of the coolest guys in Chilliwack. Like,
Yeah, I'd agree with
and I say that kind of as a joke, like, but like, there's no way that's not true.
Yeah, get to know him, and then tell us we're wrong.
Pretty nice thing to say.
Yeah, and I bought him that shirt for Christmas. So.
Oh yeah.
You did.
And Josh has the same one, and they almost. There's a chance they could have worn it on the same day.
Yeah.
But okay. What is one reason that you're excited for 2021? Josh, you're gonna go first. Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, go ahead.
I was thinking about it, and I think a lot of people are searching right now. Like, I think people are trying to search for truth and search for like the meaning of life and stuff like that. And so, like, I think that as a church, we have a huge opportunity. You know, in times when times are difficult in the world and stuff like that, the church has an opportunity to shine, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that our church has always done that. It doesn't matter if it's tough times or not. Like, we just know that we always need to do something.
Right.
And so I'm excited. Like, I know, I don't know if everyone knows this yet, but we're going to be doing some more for the cities, and stuff like that.
How many? We're gonna do 4.
4. We're going to do
cities.
4
for the city.
Yeah. So I'm super excited about that, because I do think me and you have both got to witness that. Like, every time we do it for the city, somebody who comes who's not a believer comes and they're like, wait, this is church? Like, this is what, and like, it's like, yes, this is church. This is what we do. Yeah. And I think it's just a really cool opportunity. I think it's going to be a huge year. So.
Yeah, and it's fun too to see, like, when we talk about bringing more help, more hope, and more home, we actually, like, every time we do it, let's see what we can do to even do more.
Dude, even since I started coming to Southside Church, like the amount that our For the City initiatives and All is Bright have grown is actually insane.
Well, I heard the other day they quadrupled in size in a few years. We've only been doing that.
I heard that too.
Yeah.
I'd like to just say quick that every For the City I've gone to has ended up being way more fun than I anticipated.
You remember the first one you came to?
Yeah, it was here.
It was here. I invited you.
Yeah.
And you remember you were doing something. You came late and you dropped off the diapers.
Swung by for a quick donation.
Yeah.
But no, like I say, it's always been.
They're always fun, man.
Way more fun than I anticipated.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, we'll pass it to you. One reason you're excited for 2021.
Yeah, 2021. I think. Well, for me personally, I think I'm excited about unity this year. I think it's going to be a good year for that. I feel like we've reached a point where things are a little bit divided. A lot of people are feeling a little bit uneasy. I think that this year, people are going to start coming back together again.
Love that.
It's going to be a really good thing.
That's amazing. And hey, our world needs that right now, bad, you know. And that feels like heavy because we know and we see it. And I know we were talking before about it even, and just how most people are reasonable. Most people want that, you know?
Yeah.
Like crazy high percentage of people. And it's just a matter of maybe some of us eliminating some of those crazy far, not even political, but those crazy voices over here and those intense voices over here. And maybe starting to listen to like having real conversations in real life with real people.
Yep.
And then listening to people that we know actually are wise and actually have our best interests in mind.
Yeah.
I wish it was more okay in this world.
That was a huge whistle.
Hard there, yeah. I just wish it was more okay to like have different opinions, but still be able to come together and like love each other. Well, I feel like we get so divided. I know it is, but it's just like our world can't handle it. Right. It's like, anyways.
Okay. one reason that I'm excited for 2021, I didn't even preface it because I wanted to be an icebreaker. When I say preface, that was the wrong word.
And you used it, so
I used it, but I'm gonna take it back.
Take it back.
I didn't prepare for this question.
Okay. We'll allow you to take it back.
I think I'm excited. It's what we were praying about before. I'm excited to see, like, to look back and see how God used us in His church in 2020, and then to know that as we're faithful and committed to continuing to follow Him, to see how He's going to use us in 2021. And one of the things I love doing is I go back and I do it a few times a year. You can ask Lexi. I sit on my couch and I play the year in review videos from like 2018, 2019, and 2020, and I just love watching like how God uses us in bigger ways every single year. He uses us to impact more people, to reach more people. And then, I'm just excited to see what's in store for 2021. So, and I'm really approaching it with a blank canvas.
Yeah.
I just want to see, like, I don't know, right? We don't have those answers.
Well, one thing you do know is it's going to be huge.
Yeah, lots of expectancy. Right? Not too sure what it's going to be. Yeah, I love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so this phrase, am I a lost cause? It's not one that we take lightly at all, because we've all three of us felt that way at one point in our lives. And so, I mean, for me, I made so many mistakes. I grew up, my dad's a pastor, and going to church and having people at church look at me as like a pastor's kid, expecting me to be perfect, feeling that pressure, not sure who I even was, like trying to become, knowing that I think God had a great plan for me, but just not really knowing what that would entail. Then I saw all the stuff in the world that looked fun, quick hits, like alcohol, popularity, partying, that kind of stuff. And it sounds kind of cliche, but like, dude, I'll never forget, like, just a few years into that. It started when I was like 16. I think I was like 20, 21. And I had just done the absolute dumbest stuff you could ever do that night. I'm driving home. It's like 3, 4 in the morning. There's no one on the road. I was on Evans Road. I'll always remember exactly where I was. And I just got hit with this absolute wave of like complete shame, guilt, and emptiness. And what's interesting about that, and I want you to talk about this a bit, that was brought on by my own choices and my own free will running from God. But there's a huge part that the devil plays in taking kind of over our minds, where our minds have control over our bodies, instead of me being able to say, you know what, shame and guilt, that's from the devil. There's grace, there's forgiveness, God has me. I knew all those principles, but I couldn't actually take hold of those. Do you want to talk a little bit about that mind?
Yeah. What goes on in our heads, our thoughts and our emotions and that type of thing, that actually projects out of us and then becomes our reality ultimately.
So true.
So it's important, I think, to recognize when you're having those types of thoughts and be proactive in squashing them, and substitute it. Right. So one thing that I do, one of my personal things I do, if I'm having these thoughts or these negative emotions and feelings, and okay, if it's something super serious and needs to be dealt with, then do something and go deal with it. But if it's just kind of menial and not huge or anything,
you're talking just like general negative thoughts,
just those whispers that
exactly.
Like that.
One thing I like to do is I think about somebody that I love, somebody that's dear to me, and somebody that I'm close to, and it fills me with good emotions and love. And then it starts to change my mood for the better. And then, next thing you know, I'm feeling happy, and the negative thoughts are kind of work their way out, right?
Okay, and you know what I'm thinking right now? I'm going to change the subject a little bit. I want you to take us, and I've never heard you do this, take us into a moment where you felt like this.
Felt
like a lost cause.
Felt like a lost cause. So I remember one time very clearly, and that was, I can't remember exactly what year it was. I was probably... would have been 22-ish, 23 maybe.
A few years ago, right?
Yeah, a few years back, and I went partying on Christmas Eve. Yeah. And had a great time, all the rest of it. Yeah. But I was into the drugs and the alcohol. Yeah. And so what ended up happening was I actually crashed at my buddy's house, and there wasn't anything really wrong with that per se. But when I woke up in the morning, I just, similar to what you had said, I just had this crazy empty feeling inside of me. Like,
and that was Christmas morning then?
This is the first Christmas morning where I wasn't with someone from my family. Right. And, so I was feeling like, well, my mom didn't reach out to me. My dad didn't really reach out to me. And I felt really alone. And even though I was at my friend's house and I was in good hands with good people,
Right.
it felt so bad inside, you know. And that whole day I was kind of depressed, and it took me a bit to kind of come out of that, but I remember that being a very, very negative feeling.
Yeah, okay. And we're going to get into kind of some strategies that we feel like can help get out of that spot. But yeah, I don't know. There's another thing I was thinking of. You know, how does someone actually, because I mean, we look at people, and from our perspective, we see like the beautiful works of art, that God has this incredible plan for everyone's lives. And we believe that with everything we have. That's why we're sitting here doing this, right? Like there's a lot of different things we could all be doing. But we're here talking about this because we really believe that every single person listening to this, and I pray that, you know, we can offer some help. There's actually like a great plan for their lives, a plan of freedom and joy and love and courage and strength and doing epic stuff and leaving a legacy. And we believe that. But I feel like one of the ways that we can get belittled and beat down to a point where we feel like a lost cause is through people's words. In the Bible, it's super clear that words have power. That in, you know, our tongue is a power of life and death. And so, do you want to talk a little?
I actually have I just am laughing because a so vivid memory of what you're about.
Yeah.
Ask me the question and I'll answer.
Well, you ask yourself the question.
Okay, so I'm assuming you're going to ask like something like, is there a moment in your life when you remember words?
I
somebody
actually,
said to you?
yeah, and you know, that actually wasn't what I was going to ask you.
Okay, I'm so sorry.
But I do want you to answer that.
Okay, I remember, and you know, it's funny because you say like growing up as a pastor's kid, like it's really hard because people have expectations out of you and stuff like that. Very true, and probably even more intense when you're a pastor's kid. But like I grew up in a Christian family, and everybody in my public school knew I grew up in a Christian family, and I remember.
And they all thought you were Ned Flanders, pretty much.
This is exactly what it was. These kids started dude, that's it. So these
Are you
kids,
serious?
yeah, 100%. That's what I thought of right when you said that. So I used to walk to school, and there was this group of kids who like, I'd play hockey with them, like, you know, like outside and stuff like that. Like I thought they were friends or whatever, but they would just like constantly like just rail me and my brother about they called us the Flanders boys.
Yeah.
And I hated that.
Yeah.
Absolutely hated it. I wasn't even allowed The Simpsons really, but I knew The Simpsons enough to know that the Flanders kids weren't the kids that like people liked.
Yeah.
And I know for sure that is the early start of words from people who I looked up to, who I thought were cool, popular, cutting me down and being like, okay, well, obviously I don't want that.
Right.
So like, how can I get as far away from somebody calling me the Flanders? What? Honestly, that's I just kind of had like a epiphany there, but it's that's the start of it for me. I'm sure it is.
That's and you know what? Honestly, I haven't talked about this one. I'm really open about a lot of stuff, and there's some stuff I just don't love talking about. But I've had like starting in about it really hit me in public school. So I went in about I think it was grade 7. I had such self-image issues. Like I wanted to look good and I like, so going back to, I can't even remember how old I was, probably grade 6, 5, I don't know, something like that. At the church office, group of girls come up to me, they're older girls, and they said something about my monkey ears. And it's like, it sounds funny, dude, but like I'm a grown man. I'm a married man and a grown up, and I'll never, ever forget that in my whole life. And like I would go into the bathroom constantly in middle school. I knew Henry in middle school. We were homies. Over and over again. I remember one time getting called out by a guy. I know exactly who he was. I know exactly where I was standing. He's like, "You've been in the washroom quite a few times today." And I was like, "Dude, he's on to me." And I was in there checking my hair to see if my hair was covering my monkey ears. And it's like, dude, that's crazy. A passing comment that person will never ever remember.
I know.
And it changes the way you feel about yourselves.
I had a very similar thing myself. It was my head. My head was big.
Yeah.
Big forehead, right? So I used to grow my hair out to try and kind of hide it, right? Or do the hairstyle
the
right.
Swoop, you always
right. Try to minimize the forehead.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was ever really attacked for that, but it was mentioned a couple times, and then I was self-conscious about it.
Well, it doesn't matter if you attacked yourself for it, probably. Like
exactly.
You do enough to yourself, right? Yeah.
Probably more than anything, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
And it's just, and then you think, so those are small examples that actually had really like decently lasting negative impacts.
Definitely.
And impacts that we don't even know. And then think about if that's someone you love. Think about if that's your parent. Think about if that's your dad or your mom or that popular kid in school. And then, so we can all relate to that. You know, and I think I just want to stop there. And I think we need to talk about how to counter that. You need truth in your heart, in your mind, in your soul that can counteract those lies that people tell you. And that truth is in the Bible, you know? And so we were talking about it before, like a lot of the stuff to fight this is simple, but it's not easy. So like getting this stuff into your spirit, like you're listening to me right now. You're like, the Bible, like, oh, great. Like you know what I mean? Like, it's the classic Christian dude. But I'm like, I've tried most things in the world. I haven't done crystal meth. I've tried a lot of stuff, and there's nothing that can replace the love of God and the truths and the words.
Absolutely.
that He has for
I
you.
can definitely test that as well.
And so, man, we're really praying that you take us up on that, and also that we, and myself included, none of us are perfect by any means, that we remember that our words have power. So I can't sit here on one hand and say, man, that really hurt and then on the other hand, not even check the words that I say to people.
Well, and the other end of that is negative words have power, and so do positive words.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you compliment someone, say, you know, oh, you look good today.
Right.
That goes a long way for that person. Or you know, I love seeing you at church today and sitting by you and hanging out with you and that type of thing. Like that could be a meaningful thing to someone, right? And you know, words are powerful.
It's way harder to compliment somebody than it is to cut them down, by the way.
I find it hard to accept compliments too.
Oh, dude. Does everybody? Because I
get
weird.
I think everyone does.
It's like, thanks.
Because it feels good, but we're like,
inside you're like, yes.
Yeah. And you will think about it later.
Oh, totally.
And I think too, like when I said your chain is nice, I didn't say that because I'm like, I want Henry to look at me and be like, dude, you're dope for saying that. Like, so I'm not saying that for a reaction from him that makes me feel good.
Yeah.
You know, I'm saying that because I actually like care about this guy. And that goes for any, so checking why you're saying that. Like it becomes a lot less cool when it's the kid that no one's hanging out with at lunch. And you know, like even being seen with that kid, people are gonna be like, what do you, and then that's when it's like, do you go up and do you say something kind to that? Like, and man, if we could just have more kids learning from our mistakes, or my mistake at least, because I was not that guy that was doing that in high school. I was like, I was a bully a lot. I was mean to a lot of people. If we could have more kids being courageous to do that, I really think we would see a lot of lives changed.
Absolutely.
The sad part is I was the kind of kid in high school that would have, my heart naturally would have said, go and sit with that kid and make him feel good. But I wouldn't do it because I knew that it would take me away from that popular crew, which I put more investment into.
Like, looking back, isn't that such a terrible thing?
It's terrible, man. It's terrible. And I wish I knew what happened to some of those kids that sit at the lunch table by themselves every day.
Right. And one of the ways someone described it to me, I think it was my dad today. He said there's a storm going on at home. And it was like, man, like there's a storm going on at home for a lot of those kids. Or maybe there's not, but maybe there's a storm going on in their head. And maybe the storm for them is school. They hate it there. And like maybe you could be a part of, and it's funny how this conversation turned into that. We never thought that.
No, I know.
But I believe that that's important.
Absolutely.
And I think of some of the kids at Southside Youth, like your Taylor Adams and
Beauty.
Gavin and Noah Choi and you know, Portia and Ray, like they're unbelievable young people. Right? Like I think of I was so selfish. And I see them caring about others and I see them as those people that will actually be courageous enough to do the right thing instead of the popular thing.
Yeah.
You know, I wrote a reference letter for one of our Southside Youth grade 12s the other day, and that's one of the things I said is like she would rather lead and love people than follow the crowd and do the popular thing. And
it's amazing.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think let's talk a little bit about just the concept of grace, which is funny because that's where it all started. So there's a song, Elevation Worship, My Testimony, right? It's called
My Testimony.
And it says, "'Cause grace rewrote my story, I'll testify." And so, you know, for me, like, I think one thing I'm decent at is understanding that there actually are consequences to actions. That the trajectory I was heading in and the decisions I was making would warrant destruction, personal destruction for my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I was heading.
Mm-hmm.
And to even be offered that gift of forgiveness and grace that, you know, ultimately was from, you know, the price that Jesus paid on the cross is incredible to me. And I feel like when you actually take hold of like what Jesus did for you and you experience that forgiveness and grace, it says, I'll testify. Like, of course I'm going to testify. And all testifying means is like, I'll tell my story.
Yeah.
I'll invite people to feel the same thing.
Right.
And you know what's funny too is this whole conversation, you know, it's called Am I a Lost Cause? Originally, we were going to just talk about this concept of grace and second chances and how, you know, there actually are consequences to actions. And we all know that. But like the actions that I was making and the selfish choices I was making, I deserved personal destruction is where I was heading.
Sure.
And then for me to like run from God for so long, and then for me to in a moment turn to him and him be there for me and to offer grace and offer forgiveness and offer second chances and actual freedom is just pretty cool. And you know, I'm just reading here. It's like, let's talk about some strategies that we've implemented in our lives to climb out from under this lie. All three of us, and we're not going to sit here and do a long form thing where it's 3 hours. We could get into it. We've all felt in a complete place where we're a lost cause. Our lives don't hold, you know, value. You know, for me, you know, no one would miss me if I was gone. Depression, anxiety, different things, and it's different for all of us too. But there's different ways to get to that spot. And I think what's incredible and freeing about that is like understanding that no matter how many mistakes that we've made, that God will always welcome us back with open arms. You know, I think about like the prodigal son story where he took his inheritance early and he ran off and he spent it all and his dad still welcomed him. And every time I read that, I just tear up because it's like, I think about my earthly father, but then I also think about like my heavenly father that like he always will welcome me back and throw a party.
The door is always open.
Yeah.
And no mistake is too big. I feel like people can lie to themselves a lot. Be like, yeah, that's cute for them to say, but they don't know what I've done.
Right,
it's
right.
Like,
well, yeah, I know. It's like, and that's what I love about our church, man. It's full of people that are like, we've made some big mistakes. Yeah. And hey, if you haven't made any big mistakes, that's really cool.
Well,
yeah.
I'm still making mistakes.
Yeah, you and me both.
Right. But I think too, sometimes that's something where like, we tell these crazy testimonies and some people that don't have a crazy testimony are like, oh, like, do I even have a powerful story? It's like, yeah, it's incredible.
Every story is powerful in its own way.
Yeah, and for you to like have actually like trusted God through like high school and middle school and stayed true to who he created you to be, that's an incredibly powerful story.
Agreed. Yeah.
Like
beyond
of faith.
Yep.
Right? And so like tell your story. I just spat all over Josh.
It's all good. It's not the first time in my life, you know?
And
I feel like when people think the word testimony, like they think it has to be like some super, and it probably usually is heavy and deep. They just don't realize it, but it's more about how God intervened in your life. It doesn't matter. Like,
100%.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be intense. Like I did all the drugs in the world and like, you know what I mean? Like
and to live in this world and to stay the course through middle school and high school and what that's like right now.
Oh, dude.
And like, I think of even our buddy Lorenzo. And I want to send this to him now because I shouted his name out.
Yeah.
But that dude never wavered. I know probably internally he did.
He didn't budge.
Not one bit. And now we see him today.
Yeah, not from our perspective anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure he had some battles of his own, right?
Yeah.
But
and then I reconnected with him a few months ago. Did you get a chance to hang out with him yet?
I didn't know.
Phoenix did too. I know another guy from high school, and he's just rock solid. And he watched me go from his Christian buddy to off the rails lost. And then we hung out like 6 months ago and he was so excited to see me and to hear my story. And it's like, I don't know, like I look at him and I'm like, that's dope.
Yeah.
You know? And so I don't know, like just accepting that grace, understanding that your story is unique and has power, and then testifying is such a weird word. Just tell your story.
Tell your story.
Be you.
Yeah. Say what happened, how you felt.
Say what happened, exactly.
And what changed for you.
And okay, let's just get you. Why don't you take us into that a little bit? Well, I'll preface it by saying we're going to give one action step. Simple steps. We're going to give one each. Simple steps that are going to help go from a place where you feel hopeless, you feel worthless, you feel directionless, to a position where maybe you're not like, I'm killing it, but maybe you're a little better than you were yesterday.
Well, I had reached a point where I was making a lot better decisions for myself and feeling a lot better, but I was still lacking a little bit of meaning and purpose. You know, I was definitely doing better for myself, but I still had a little bit of emptiness inside, and I wasn't exactly sure how to fill that until, of course, I was reunited with God. And so one of the practical steps that I took was attending church every Sunday and making a point of it. You know?
Hey, let me intervene, because I want people to know this dude would be at the 8 a.m. service every week.
The 8 a.m. service.
Which is not early for him, but it's early for someone like me.
It's terrible.
And I'm not, like, we're not trying to sit here and like brag, but, and like you saw change in your life. And so you're like, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go because I want to go.
Yeah. I only had a company with me one time.
You brought your mom.
Yeah. 99% of the time it was by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I enjoyed it. And I noticed positive changes happening in my life. Like, and probably the most important was that feeling, you know, that feeling of meaning. Once I was attending church every single Sunday, then I was more aware of maybe what my purpose was, you know, and understanding that, yeah, God does have this plan for me, and I need to lean into this and take this very seriously, more seriously, right? And so that hole kind of started to get filled up a little bit. And then I started seeing my life get better in other areas, like my relationships were improving, you know, and I was more excited about meeting new people, because, just kind of jet off real quickly, how you said earlier, you know, God has made everyone unique in their own way.
Right.
Once I really grasped that thought, then now I'm really excited about meeting people, and I'm excited about watching them be themselves, because look at what God's created. And it's amazing when you think of it that way.
Like
you know,
that.
It makes me think of God didn't make you one way to use you another.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
And so a big part of that was in church, meeting people in church. So yeah, that was my practical step. A good practical step for me was making a point of it, and you know, even once the in-person services ended, making a point of going online, checking it out, watching it, enjoying it, taking it in, you know, listening with a keen ear, and trying to apply some of that stuff.
Love it.
That's cool. You got something, Josh?
I actually do, yeah. I truly don't think that I would have stayed the course of, you know, this Christian life, because I became a Christian again, but then things got really hard for me. But I had people that surrounded me, and I don't know what that looks like for you. Like, just surround yourself with a couple good people who are willing to speak positivity into your life. I don't know, confidence, like, yeah, sure. Because I'm a really insecure person, and I didn't believe in myself at all. And people would tell me these things that I didn't necessarily believe, but I was like, you know what? I trust you guys, and I feel like you're being honest with me, so I'm going to try. I'm going to stay the course. And so I think it's really important to surround yourself with some people that you can trust and that really care about you.
Yeah, and hey, like, that's something that Josh and I we've been fighting with COVID, man. It's like we know there's so many students out there that just aren't connected, that want to be connected. You might be listening, you're like, man, and we're working our butts off. We have existing small groups. There might be a spot for you in one of those, and we have a bunch of small groups that are almost ready to launch, but we're just waiting till we can be in person again and start launching some of those. And small groups, it's kind of this churchy phrase, but it's really just like other people that are just trying to do the same thing.
Friendships.
Right.
And I found personally that was one of the best things for me as well, was meeting like-minded fellas who wanted to walk down that same path. That really helped strengthen my faith.
Right. Yeah, because you're not alone then.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you guys killed it with that advice, and I'll just end it off then as we kind of close here. But I just have a note here at the bottom of my page. It just says, nothing to prove and only one to please. You know, and we live in this world where there's this weird, like, and even in my lost cause, like, do I measure up? And it's like, well, measure up to what? Well, that's standard. Well, what standard? Well, that's standard that we all feel constantly, that no one has to say, but we feel like we're always like trying to.
Well, sort of like you were talking about before, the people saying words to you that are negative, right? It's like, well, do you have to please that person?
Right.
No,
you don't. You don't. And I mean, again, this stuff's easier said than done. Right?
Yeah,
Totally.
like, big time.
And we've walked through getting from that place, but I really believe that, like, your attitude really determines your, what's that corny? It's like your latitude or something, which is your location. I wasn't actually going to say that, but
Well, you said it.
But having an attitude of, I have nothing to prove, and only one, and that doesn't mean I got nothing to prove to anyone.
No.
I'm a rebel. It's like, I don't have to earn your love. I don't even have to earn God's love. Like, He loves me, and that's good enough for me. And even like coming and doing this podcast, Like, do you not think that we feel nervous? Like, we feel like, because I'm like, but what I texted you today, I was thinking about, I was like, why am I doing this? Right? Am I doing this so someone will listen and think I'm smart? Because there's for sure moments where I feel that and I want that. But I'm actually doing this because I want to help someone.
Yeah.
And I want someone out there, even one person, to know you're not alone and God has a great plan for you and that you're not a lost cause.
Yeah.
And I know, like, we're all here for that exact reason. And it makes me not quite emotional because I'm not going to get there on camera. But it does make me feel that desire to help someone escape from that place.
Well, it's a really amazing thing when you walk through that door that God has opened for you, and then you realize, like, you fully realize that, wow, God has a plan for me, and then you lean into that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty much it. Couple things we'll do. If you feel like this impacted you in some way, share this out. You can kind of share the YouTube link. It'll be up for a week. And then we have a YouTube playlist called Southside Youth Young Adults. You can share that playlist out with people. If you leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, it helps us kind of legitimize these a little bit more. So we'd really appreciate that. If you give us 4 stars instead of 5, we will find you and we will physically harm you. No, I'm just kidding. Don't tell your parents I just said that. And then, yeah, just thanks for stopping in. That was episode 1. We're just going to kind of keep trucking along with these. Next episode is coming in 2 weeks, and it's called Empathy for Dummies. Okay, I'm the dummy. I'm going to learn some empathy from 2 of the most empathetic people I know. Valentina Funes, amazing, and then my wife, Lexi Manis.
Both amazing.
Also amazing.
Who is a lot kinder than me. And
kinder than
just difference in personality, and I'm excited to learn with you guys on that. So thanks for stopping by. We love you guys. Small groups next week. It's going to be amazing, and we'll see you in 2 weeks with another episode.
Yeah, definitely love you guys.
Yeah, see you guys.